I'm from Athens, we'll say. Family grew up like divorced household, so like mom's in like Athens, Oconee County, and my dad was in Madison County, so all around there.
And what was it like growing up there?
It was pretty sick. I mean, Madison County is like really redneck, no hate, not really my speed, but Oconee County had really good schools and cool people playing sports there and stuff was nice.
And what kind of kid were you in high school?
Oh goodness. It really depends on the year. I had a weird high school just because like freshman year was when COVID happened, so everything was like thrown off. I would say like my junior and senior year, I kind of started to find out like who I really am, because freshman and sophomore year were a lot more trying to fit in and be a part of different groups that weren't necessarily authentic to who I actually am. So I guess in hindsight, I was conforming a lot the first 2 years, and the second 2 years trying to kind of figure out who I am, which meant like getting into theater, partying a little bit too much, and yeah, it was fun.
And would you say you found your authentic self during those times?
I feel like it's kind of like a constant thing, maybe. Like, I definitely started chipping away at the block of who I am, but I mean, I still don't think I know like 100% who I am. I feel like every day I learn a little something else about myself, or I don't know. I'm like trying to be all philosophical, but I don't. I guess that's kind of how I feel.
And so when you mentioned in the first 2 years you were trying to conform
Right.
in high school, I was curious, where do you think that impulse kind of came from to conform?
The true answer is not like exactly a good one. I liked girls, and all my friends were like dating girls, and I was like, what do they have that I don't? And so it was kind of just trying to, I guess, analyze what girls were looking for and then find that, or at least pretend to be that. But it also was not successful, so. But that's probably where it came from.
What path did you decide to take after high school?
A very weird one. I went to college for like a month or two, and it sucked. I didn't like where I was living, and I really wasn't a fan of the school system aspect. I mean, I knew I wanted to try and be an actor, but it's also like a scary thing to just pursue without any real direction. So I was like, I'm gonna go to school. It was free because of like my grades and stuff, so like, I'll go until I figure out what I want to do. But where I was living wasn't a place I was happy, so that coupled with, I was taking like geology classes. Rocks are great. I don't really care about rocks that much though. So that was kind of like that was kind of how things started. And then I decided to drop out and move to Savannah, which was the best decision ever. I love Savannah so much. And just being around like-minded people in the sense of like creative and wanting to do more with their life other than just work a 9 to 5 or party hard. Even though it's all different aspects, like writers, directors, illustrators, animation, like everybody has like a different, I guess, niche or niche, depending on what you say. But just being around that kind of eagerness and hunger to chase dreams was very refreshing and helped me kind of dive into that more for myself as well. But there was a lot in between there, like, Mom, you probably don't want this on the internet, but like, when I first moved to Savannah, wanted to make money, didn't know what to do. I like did some like male stripping stuff, dude, which was kind of hilarious. But that was like a very one-time thing for the bit. And then after that, I was like, maybe not. Maybe I'll just try and act more. So it was a really chaotic couple of months, but we've kind of settled down a little bit.
What was the male stripping like?
It was sick, dude. It was really fun. I was uncomfortable a little bit just because I was like 18, and it was like 30 to like 60-year-old women for the most part, just did like private parties. And I felt weird about that, but it was a lot of, I love dancing. I really wasn't really like even doing that much stripping. I was just like breakdancing and stuff with my shirt off pretty much. It was cool though, easy money. I wouldn't I mean, maybe do it one time for fun, but I don't want it to be my career. I don't want to be known as like a stripper.
How do you even like sign up to become a male stripper?
There was a website called Hunkomania, and I like submitted a few pictures of myself as kind of a joke. Like, didn't think I'd hear back. And then they were like, hey, do you want to do this private party for a couple $100s for like an hour? And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. That'd be sick. It was cool, but like, I knew within like 10 minutes that this was not my thing. I was uncomfortable with it. You have to play like a very douchey persona, which is fine if like you're acting in a role because it's like, oh, it's very obviously a character. But when it was still kind of face to face with real humans, I couldn't really do it. So I just don't think it was for me. You know, I wouldn't say it's the most noble career path either, but also no hate if that's where you decide to land.
What would you say got you really into wanting to pursue acting full time as a career versus the male stripping?
Thank you. We have a mutual friend named Grace Berry, who's delightful, and
She's brilliant.
She's brilliant, truly. And I met her on a set, and that was like the first person close to my age that I've met that was like, and this was before I moved to Savannah. This was kind of the thing that kicked me off to decide to drop out as well. But meeting her and her being like fully committed to this dream and seeing somebody else pursue it at a level that like, you can see Leonardo DiCaprio and all them do all this stuff and like hear their stories, but it's not really relatable. But just being on set with her for 12 hours a day, 7 days, and being around other actors, because everybody else on that set was amazing as well. It was just, I had the fire inside of me, but it was definitely the fuel to the flame to kind of blow it up and make me feel like this is something that I can do and will do, and also don't have to do it alone. Because that's another thing. It's scary to hop into it alone. And where I was living at the time, there was no other people that were remotely interested at all. So just being around people that were also chasing that dream was kind of what made me decide to really throw caution to the wind and go for it.
Do you have any sort of bigger or older celebrities that that inspire you to want to pursue acting?
Timothy Chalamet is my favorite actor, and I know that's kind of like a generic ass answer, but for multiple reasons. My first ever acting role was in theater as Laurie in Little Women, and so like I obviously watched him perform in that, which was beautiful. And again, similar to what I said earlier with like Leo, people like Leo and other older actors feel kind of out of touch a little bit, but even though Timothy's obviously older and way more established, there still feels like a relatability, if that's a word, to him, and seeing that he is doing what I want to do. And also I do love his performances as well. So yeah, I would say Timothy Chalamet is probably the most person I look up to in terms of acting that is bigger.
What does the day-to-day life of an actor early in their career look like?
A shit ton of auditions. If I'm not actively working on a set, I try and be as diligent with my time as possible, which I'm not great about. Like, I get lazy a lot. So I try and audition for as many things as possible. And I still am not at a point in my career where I can be picky or super picky. I'm getting a little bit more picky just because of timing reasons. But I mean, I'll submit to pretty much anything and everything that meets my description and age. So I try and audition as much as possible, and if I don't have anything lined up audition-wise or acting-wise, trying to write more, read more, reading books about acting, which I feel like is helpful. And then I'm reading one now that's like completely contradicting everything else, everything I've read. So kind of deciphering what works for me, picking something from everything. And but again, also, like I said, reading and writing, I feel like has helped a lot. Also diversifying like your bag of skills, I think is probably helpful, because as much as I would love to be an actor, I also love writing. So if I think they both probably help each other, as well as could make me more attractive to someone wanting to work with me in the future.
How do beginner actors pay their bills while they're auditioning out there? What are some types
Mail
of jobs?
stripping. No, I'm kidding. I served for like 3 months because November through January was really, really slow for me. So serving was fun, and also great acting training, because like you have to remember so much, you have to put on a performance every table you go to. And also I think it's important for everybody to work in the food industry at some point, because you have to deal with so much shit, and I think that probably translates to being on set. Like there's gonna be shitty customers, shitty cast members, shitty crew members, and just being able to like stay focused and work through it and find solutions, I think was helpful. The problem with that was when I did start booking stuff, I wanted to be an actor, not a career waiter. So I obviously was willing to like sacrifice that. And I ended up getting mutually let go when I was like, hey, I'm gonna be gone for these weeks filming, and they're like, oh, you can't do that, and I was like, well, I'm going to, so I got fired. And then as for other things, again, not being picky, being willing to do a lot helped. I like would drive. I wouldn't recommend this, but I would lie about where I live to go and like do commercials in other states and stuff. So driving 7 hours in the morning to go film for like $300 and then come back. Maybe not what everybody wants, but you got to pay bills one way or the other, and I felt like it was worth it.
What are your thoughts on work-life balance and this idea of hustle culture to sort of be successful? That you have to be constantly grinding 24/7.
Oh goodness. I'm torn. I think that a lot of people hate on hustle culture out of laziness almost. I think it's like easy to be like, oh, that's hustle culture. You're not enjoying your life. But thankfully, from at least in my experience, I really do love doing all of this. So even if I am, driving long distances to work for not that much money or doing unpaid stuff for weeks on end, yes, it's hustling, I suppose, but I really do love doing it. So it doesn't feel bad. But at the same time, you want to have friendships, relationships. And I think in order to be a good actor, you have to have real intimate relationships in your life. Not sexually intimate per se, but like emotionally intimate relationships. It helps you a lot. So if you can chase your dreams and work as much as possible while also maintaining those relationships, I think that that's like the middle ground. You have to find a way to do that.
How do you think you're doing so far?
I don't know, man. It goes through waves, I suppose. Like I get FOMO pretty bad. Like when I am going from set to set to set, and like I'm seeing all my friends in Savannah, like doing fun things in Savannah, I get kind of sad and wish I was there. But then other times, my mom's great at reminding me that like when I start complaining about being busy, she's like, Owen, this is what you wanted. Like you were complaining in January about how you couldn't book anything, and now that you have booked stuff, you're kind of complaining about booking stuff. So she says it in a much sweeter way because she's the best. But I guess just being as grateful for the opportunities that I'm getting now, knowing that there will be slow periods in the future. Matthew McConaughey in his book Green Lights says something along the lines of don't create artificial problems in your life when things are going good because bad times, bad things are going to come eventually. So I guess just trying to be present and take it day by day and doing that's helped me kind of appreciate the grind. And I think that carries over to being happy when I do have free time and being able to maintain that balance with those friends.
Yeah. So do you think that people can have success and be high performing, but also have that deep personal connection with others that we all strive for?
Absolutely. I think we have 24 hours in a day, which sometimes feels like not enough. But let's say you are on set 12 hours and then you're sleeping 8 hours, which like let's be real, none of us are sleeping 8 hours. That leaves you with 4 hours of free time. And it's as simple as making phone calls. Like if you care about people, it's not incredibly hard, at least in my experience, to at least show them that you're thinking about them, and that alone will go a long way in maintaining relationships.
What is it that you're most afraid of? And don't say this interview.
No, I'm not. I'm having so much fun. Oh man. Can I give two answers?
Yeah.
Okay. On a more personal level, it's like disappointing my parents, I suppose, because they've done so much for me, and I almost feel like because I had a very good life growing up and a lot of opportunities given to me in a way that I probably don't even deserve. If I don't make the best out of everything, I feel like I'm kind of doing a disservice. So that's one. Even though I know like my parents are the best, like they're very supportive. They support me chasing this. They support everything, which I'm like so lucky because many people don't have that. That's probably one though. Is just like I don't want to let anybody down. And then the other is a little bit more kind of cringy, but it's like being forgotten kind of thing. Like after I die, I would like to leave a legacy, whether that's through my work or children, family. I just want to be remembered as like a good person. Acting aside, like I really could care less if I'm remembered as a great actor. I would just like to have some sort of long-lasting, something that keeps my name alive a little bit longer. And maybe that's selfish. Maybe that's me for my ego, but that is like a fear, is like dying and people like forgetting about me, being like, oh, he was just another human on the earth. I would like to be a little bit more than that.
Do you like watching your stuff that you've done?
I'm gonna be so for real. I've only seen like 3 things I've done because everything's in post forever. Um, but I don't mind it. Like I'm hard on myself, but I'm also self-aware enough to know that I am like my own worst critic. So even if I like what I view as being bad, um, doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. Also, a thing I need to work on. David Mamet says in his book True and False that like the most slap in the face thing you can do is when somebody says like, "Oh, that was so good, like excellent performance," and be like, "No, it wasn't that good. You should see something else I've done." I do that a lot, and that is like the most disrespectful, like shitty thing you can say to somebody because they're there to like be happy and proud of you, and then you're immediately shutting them down. So that's the only problem I have when I watch things back, is I get like really negative about myself sometimes, and then when people try and like compliment it, I'm not exactly receptive all the time. So I'm working on that.
Was it a difficult transition to go from theater acting into film acting?
Most definitely, I would say. One, from like a performance standpoint, it is very different. With the camera, you don't have to be as big. You don't have to. You have to be more real, I would say, or at least try to be as truthful. Versus with theater, I feel like you're not really convincing anybody that you're not an actor. But also, with theater, there's instant gratification, instant gratitude. Like you perform and you hear the claps, you see the people, you go out after the show, you go back outside, and people are telling you how good you did or whatever. There's like the immediate return on that. Versus with film, you do something and you don't see it for 6 months after, and then it comes out, and then for those 6 months you don't really have anything to work with in terms of like, did I do good? Like that's honestly kind of the hardest thing, is just doing something and then having to kind of take a deep breath and disconnect a little bit, because if you're just sitting there thinking about it the whole time, you're not going to get anything from that.
Do you have any hobbies that you like to do for fun to sort of de-stress after working on a set?
I like going to the gym. It's kind of a douchey answer, but it is therapeutic in a sense. I'm not as serious about it as I once was, but I do think it's like good for your mind. Honestly, I do it more for the mind at this point than for like the actual physical effects of it. I love dancing, and I have no shame in saying I definitely party hard when I'm not doing anything. I think it's like it's fun. I love meeting people, dancing, and going out and stuff. So that's definitely like a good way to kind of, for me, as long as it doesn't start like overlapping with other aspects of my life and making me. Everything's about balance. Like we've already kind of talked about balance, but like if partying and like socializing gets up here and acting falls down here, then there's an issue. But if I'm able to kind of, I think it's good. Gets my mind off things and gets me present in the moment, hanging out with people, stuff like that.
How would you describe yourself at like these parties that you go to?
Well, when I get there, I'm a lot more like insecure and nervous. And then for reasons that will leave to the imagination, there's some courage that's probably added via outside resources. And so like after a couple hours, definitely like more loosey-goosey and happy. I love dancing, and like if I'm like I danced growing up, did like hip hop and stuff like that, and then obviously doing theater, you do a lot of like musical theater dancing. So I have a lot of confidence in my abilities, but I still worry about judgment. Midway through the night, judgment's out the window. I'm just living my life. So I would say at parties and stuff, you get to see the full range of Owen.
Do you believe in love?
I do. Do you mean like romantic or?
We'll stick with romantic right now.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit easier to tackle.
Do you believe in romantic love?
It's tough because I don't really know what love is. Like I think if you ask 100 people, you'd get 100 different definitions. So I believe that you can feel very strongly about somebody and selflessly care about them. And that's kind of what I would attribute to love, I suppose. But also I'm 19, so like I've thought I've been in love like 3 times. And then I'm like, I'm so in love with this girl, and then we break up. And then I meet a new girl, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that wasn't love, this is love. And then you break up, and then 6 months later you find somebody else, like, this is what love really is. And so I'm sure I'll do that for the next 70 years of my life. So I don't know. I don't know what love 100% is, but I do believe that it exists.
And what do you think about the current dating scene?
Oh man, I'm not the best person to ask about this right now. I'm like very much not trying to be in relationships, which is not my normal thing at all. Like I think, but for the career that I want to do, and this kind of touches on acting, it's hard to. You have to be selfish at times, especially with your time, because it takes a lot of effort and energy. And for me, at this state in my life, I don't have the energy to pour into somebody else. Which if you're in a relationship, like they deserve your time and energy. Be a good boyfriend, be a good girlfriend, be a good partner. But um, I don't know. The dating scene in general, I feel like, is probably over sexualized, and the the love aspect is probably leaving a little bit. But that's also kind of a cynical way to look at it. So I guess in a more optimistic way, I would say that people are being more free when they're young, but also my sample size is small. Like I'm around college kids for the most part. So I think in college, there's a lot of hookup culture, stuff like that. And I used to look about that super negatively, but I would say as long as you're honest and truthful and transparent about what your intentions are, it's not inherently bad, maybe. I don't know. It's a tough it's a tough thing to answer, Matthew. I'm sorry.
Well, so what do you think about dating apps? Have
Oh,
you
I'd be
used it?
swiping, bro.
You were swiping?
Yeah, I'm swiping. I mean, yeah, I'm on them.
And so, do you think dating apps are really prominent? I think among like your age, like the college age kids. Do you think that is contributing to what you say is like hookup culture is a lot more prominent? Do you think dating
Yeah,
apps contribute to that, or
absolutely. I think dating apps are terrible. As somebody on them, I think that they're bad because I think it kind of desensitizes you and objectifies everyone, guy or girl. It just, you look at somebody as a profile rather than as a human in some ways. Um, with that being said, though, like I'm by no means a saint. Like I'm still contributing, so I can't shit talk it that much, I suppose. But I do think it's like overall probably not great. I think it also contributes to people's inability to communicate in real life, just because everything is so digital now. Um, a lot of just you can text and FaceTime and call people, and then you get face to face, and it's awkward and weird. And I think dating apps contribute to that a lot. It's tough to like form an authentic relationship based off of a profile, but at the same time, it's hard to meet humans in real life too. I mean, it is. It's scary to approach a person in real life, and I guess dating apps are kind of a safety net in a way too, where you can shoot your shot, for lack of a better word, and the fear of rejection is a little more minimal.
what is Owen's advice to building a good profile on dating apps?
Um, don't. Wow, this is funny. I never thought I'd be asked this. Put pictures that are like actually what you look like, first off, because yeah, obviously you want to highlight yourself. Don't just put like a selfie, but like maybe not just group pictures, because then you have to decipher who's who, and that feels misleading. Throw some personality pics in there. I have some like pictures from like sets. I have pictures from vacations, me when I'm probably in my silliest state, like at like the club or something, dancing. I don't know. Market yourself in the best way, but also in an authentic way, I guess. And if you're 5'8", maybe put 5'9". I mean, that's coming from a person that's 5'8" that has 5'9" on there. It's only 1 inch, but I swear it makes a difference.
It sounds like it's kind of similar to building like an acting profile for like a
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, I mean, acting, interviewing, dating, like I feel like a lot of it to an extent has some overlap of you're marketing yourself. The difference I would say is like if you're interviewing for a job or or auditioning for a role, it's a little bit more okay to be slightly what's the word I'm looking, hyperbolic maybe. If you're trying to woo a girl, I think honesty is the best policy. Be authentic. Don't lie about who you are. Don't make up a bunch of shit, because you will meet them eventually, probably, or hopefully. And if you do and you're completely different than you've marketed yourself, that's misleading and disrespectful, one, but also it's just not going to go anywhere.
When do you think you will be ready to find a relationship?
In my perfect world, I would love to have a family or get married. I don't know. Listen, it changes. I used to be like, I want to get married at 20 and be in love my whole life, but I am very hungry for acting right now. It's like what consumes the majority of my mind as well as time. So I don't have like a set year, I guess, but I would like to have the freedom of moving around as much as possible and being flexible and not having to take another person into consideration. Also, when I say having to, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I think if you're in a relationship, you should consider the other person in everything that you do, especially if it's a serious relationship. If you're in high school, a little different, but if you're trying to find a wife, you should probably consider that person a lot. So for me, when do I see myself getting back into like looking for real serious relationships? I would say 10 years, but I also know myself, and in like 6 months I'll probably be like, I'm in love. So I don't know.
Whenever it finds you.
Yeah, I think when you're not looking for something is typically when the best things kind of come into your life, when it comes to that at least.
Do you have any regrets in your life?
Yeah, I have one, like it's gonna sound like I'm being silly, but I really mean it. When I was younger, I was probably like 7 or 8, and my mom, who was like working like overnight NICU shifts all the time and like working her ass off to be a great mom, I remember one morning I was like, I want Apple Jacks, and she like made me a bowl of Apple Jacks, and I was like, no, I said I wanted Cheerios, and then she like is the best, so she like made me Cheerios instead, and then I was like, no, I said I wanted oatmeal. And I literally think about that moment way too much. I like genuinely feel so bad because my mom was doing everything in her ability and I was just being a little shit and like disrespecting that. So that's like weirdly the biggest regret I have. I feel so bad about it. And I've told her that and she like doesn't remember this at all, but it's stuck with me. But on the note that you were asking, no, there's things that like I wish would have gone differently, but I also am a big believer that like everything happens for a reason. So even the things that hurt and sucked or that I would love to go back and do differently, if I would have done it differently, if something else would have happened, I wouldn't be sitting here with the lovely Matthew Simpson recording this. So I'm very happy with where my life is right now, so I wouldn't change anything up to this point. It builds characters. What's that Rascal Flatts song? It's like, God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. It's a little corny, but I think there's like a lot of merit to it. It's like even the shitty stuff serves its purposes to get you where you are.
Have you ever had any doubts so far about acting, and if there's anything else that you wanted to do?
It's weird. I have no reason to feel this way. Truly, I don't really have the resume or credits to feel this way, but I have genuinely no fear that I'm not going to succeed, and I don't know why. It's a little psychotic. I like have like sat down and tried to decipher why I feel this way. I don't know if it's ego. I don't know if it's confidence, or you know, everybody watching this, everybody feels differently. Some people are religious, some people are not. I myself, I don't know if I'd say I'm religious, but I believe in God. And I believe that like whatever his plan is will work out and eventually. And I just trust that if his plan has me being an actor, then it'll work out. And if not, then it won't work out, but something else will come from it. So I really have no fear of failure, which is kind of sounds a little delusional, and maybe it is, I don't know. But that's how I feel.
What is the most important lesson that you've learned in your life?
Acting or life?
Both.
Okay. Acting's a bit of an easier answer. It's a lot of no's, a lot more no's than yeses. I guess having the self-esteem and knowing that you as a human are a lot more than an audition or than a project. And it's not, if you don't get a role, it's not representative of you as a human or even of your performance. Like you can do a great performance, but if you're not what they're looking for, then that's the reality. So I guess having that knowledge and believing in yourself, again, as a human and not letting the no's of acting and the auditioning process completely ruin you, that's probably the biggest thing I've learned in that. In terms of life, I don't know what the word is. I've been trying to think about it because it's not. I want to like patent this shit. It's not okay. I'm gonna say these words, but it's not exactly what I mean. An optimistic nihilist, which not the full version of nihilism where it's like there's no moral, like not that level, but we're on a big spinning rock, kind of that mindset of like, what this too shall pass kind of mindset, but with an optimistic perspective on it. Not being like nothing matters, and be sad about it, but be like, hey, nothing matters. Let's have fun. That I think is like the best thing I've like kind of thought of, or like at least right now in my life, I feel like that's like the best thing I've kind of wrapped my head around of just take life day by day, do your best, be kind, be a good human, which is subjective, I suppose, but be nice to people. And I feel like if you do all of that, and if you are just somewhat present, it'll all work out. That's the optimistic part of it. It's all going to be fine. And there's going to be times where it's not fine, but I believe that that'll run its course as well.
Okay, Owen, thank you for sitting down, sharing your thoughts with us today. It was great talking to you.
That was so much fun.
And good luck on your acting journey. We will work together again.
I know we will. Thanks, Matthew.